You're listening to The Caveman Show. Alright. Yo, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it might be, wherever in the world you might be. Welcome back to episode 2 of The Caveman Podcast. I am your host, Caveman. We are broadcasting live, but not actually live, but I'm alive. I'm feeling live right now from the center of South Manny. I'm here. We out here to have a nice evening of talk, gas, guzzle, and munch. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just psyching myself up for talking to the thin air for the next little period of time. Yo, first things first, as a disclaimer, I would just like to say I am aware that the audio on this week's edition of the podcast might not be great. I can hear the hiss at the moment. I'm going to, in the mixing process, try and take that out as much as possible, but just letting you know, I am aware of it. At this point in time, it looks like it's a hardware problem. I don't have the financial resources to take care of it at this exact point in time, i.e. this evening, but hopefully I'm going to be able to take care of it. I'm going to make sure that we're not having these kind of sound issues by next week's episode. Maybe I'll record elsewhere. Maybe I'll be able to get in some new gear. But up until then, I'm just letting you know, don't worry. We're all hearing it, but we're all in this together, innit? So stick with it. And we should have a good episode. So, yo, last week I was looking at Yardi. Today's film breakdown, I was planning to go and see Black Klansman. I was looking forward to it. I thought it was going to be good. I have heard mixed reviews about it, and I'm sure we'll hopefully be able to come to that for next week's episode. But I've not had a chance to see it yet. I was interested, but my cousin who I was going with had already seen it, and he wanted to go see The Predator. So we went to go and see The Predator. Now, The Predator, I've not seen any of the other Predators, so I don't really know how it kind of tied into the canon. I mean, they did an alright job. It's an action film. You know, it's got a range of characters. The girl's like that classic action film girl of like, they say she's smart, but she's pretty dumb. Like, she's like the world's leading expert on microbiology, but like she easily gets tricked into things by like grunts on the opposite team and stuff. I don't know about all of that. There was some banter. Some of it landed, some of it didn't. It was cool. I thought like do you know what? I felt like the Predator got less cool as the film went on. Like, to start with, he seemed pretty badass, and then he seemed less so as time went on. The fight scenes were cool though. Overall, as an action flick, it's alright. What I was interested by was that the main character has a son of about 10-11 years old who's autistic, and I got interested by autism on screen because it's something I clocked in the Power Rangers film that came out last year. They made a point of introducing one of the characters as being autistic. Now, we don't really look into too much about where he is on the autistic spectrum, but there is a direct reference to him being on the spectrum. There's a lot of talk at the moment about non-disabled actors playing disabled roles, and I feel like this is the kind of time when it should have been, or at least not necessarily even to say it should have been, but to say it was, and it didn't negate the film. It had a negative impact on the portrayal that it wasn't. I'll tell you why. At the start of the film, we see the kid is in school and some bullies set off an alarm, like a fire alarm. And as everyone else leaves in the fire escape, he, negatively responding to the loud noises, just stands and covers over his ears, which is quite typical of people at certain points along of the autistic spectrum. But I mean, as the film goes on, the kid's in like a massive battle scenes with aliens and guns and stabbing. screaming, body getting ripped apart, thrown through the walls, and he's not having any difficulty with the noise then. He's chilling, he's chipping about, do you know what I mean? And then as it goes on, there's a lot of the kind of tropes that we see when we have autistic people portrayed on screen. The same bullies I mentioned earlier knock over all these chess pieces, and he goes and picks up all the chess pieces from 3 different games and line them up back where they were at that point in the game, which is very much the what we're kind of used to seeing when we see autism on screen. It's quite in line with the kind of Rain Man portrayal of autism. We also see him, he gets sent this like alien technology, and he can use it. Do you know what I mean? Like after like an hour of hanging out holding this machine that's got like a different language to it, he can like use it, and the CIA are having to get him to go and open stuff up for them. Like, why can this kid understand alien language? Do you know what I mean? After an hour, when like the professionals who've been apparently studying these aliens since 1988 can't. It's just a bit mad. And it's in some ways I kind of find it a little bit like it's kind of like alluding to like the kid's more alien than human, and that's mad. That's mad. So I'm trying to think about positive. When I say positive, I mean portrayals of people with autism on screen which are coming from a place of knowledge and a place of reality. Whereas in this film, it very much to me felt like it was meant to be cute, you know? And it was like autism was like a personality trait or quirk, you know, just a way that I wasn't resonating with. And I was actually kind of buzzing at the start of the film, or at least intrigued to see, like, this kid looks like, from his behavior, I think he might be on the autistic spectrum. It would be interesting to see how they deal with that. And initially I gave him some credit. I was like, that's sick. But as the time went on, the portrayal, I feel like, became so cardboard. And I mean, at the end, like, he goes and works for the CIA, and he's just there, like, fighting aliens with his prowess with ICT. And he's like 10 years old. And it's like, what are you doing? Why is his dad bounced and left him here to work here on the Predator unit, which say nothing about that. I'm sorry, guys. This podcast should be better than that. So I actually did dig it in the Power Rangers last year. They had they kind of spoke about autism, and they kind of introduced it as a part of the way the character's brain was formed and how that affected how he interacted with the rest of the group. And it was just like a slight disclaimer at the start of, this is what I'm like, so this means that I have a few certain requirements in conversation, and the rest of the group kind of take that in their stride and kind of take it into account when dealing with him, and it doesn't form any kind of barrier as to his membership to the group. So I thought that was dope. There were other films, but as far as action films, that was kind of my limit, and I kind of didn't want to start to cross-section too much in between different genres because things deal with things differently. Overall, you know, that was just a spiral of thought I went into. I was so about the Predator. Man. Okay, speaking of films, I am a big Marvel fan. I like it. I really like it. You're listening to The Caveman Show. So I was thinking about the scene in Infinity War, and Infinity War has been out for ages now, so I'm not concerned about making spoilers. But the scene in Infinity War where they're scrapping on Titan and Thanos stabs Tony Stark, and when I was in the crowd, everyone was like, which I get because it's Tony Stark. He just got, jotted, and he kind of, it's a shock. But I was just like, I've seen Tony Stark get stabbed before. Like, sure. So I cast my mind back to Civil War, that fight scene at the end of Civil War where they're on in the island and they're having the big scrap, and it's Captain America and Bucky versus Iron Man, and Captain America jams his shield into Iron Man's arc reactor. And I mean, that should have been the end of him. And then it got me to thinking about the Avengers, the original Avengers, where Tony Stark goes up into space and then comes back down just about in time and is falling to the ground. He kind of nearly died there. I don't know if it happened in Ultron, but I'm sure it's happened in at least 2 of the 3 Iron Man movies, is that Iron Man's died, but not really died, but got killed heroically. So stop doing that, man. Dang. Robert Downey Jr. Like, we can only see it so many times. It's only been so many times. Iron Man dies every film. Iron Man dies every film, and the dude's still alive. He's been doing these flicks for 10 years. He dies every time. In other Marvel news, I've been following the sort of saga off screen with Dave Bautista, who plays Drax the Destroyer in the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Interestingly, I didn't know this, but apparently he used to be a wrestler. Maybe that's like really common knowledge. I ain't really too up on my wrestling kind of thing. But so following the sacking of James Gunn earlier this year over some tweets which he put out from about 2008 through to 2013, which were considered to be very offensive and in very poor taste. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has been put on hold. Now, Dave Bautista, who plays Drax the Destroyer, has stated that he really isn't happy about the firing of James Gunn, and says on the basis of loyalty and respect for the guy that he's worked with, that he's not that he might end up having to step away from the franchise going forwards. He said, "You can't threaten a poor man with poverty. I've grown up poor. I know what it feels like to be poor. I'll wrestle for 10 people in backyards to make more money if I have to." Pretty strong statement in my eyes. Now, Drax is one of the most popular characters within the Guardians. Very, very funny portrayal. Very deadpan. I wouldn't want to see Drax be recast. I can't really imagine anyone playing him. I feel like Dave Bautista is very infused into who that character is now. I think he's pretty irreplaceable in that role. I don't really like recastings anyway. I also never like, side note, I never used to really dig when you'd watch good old fashioned Indiana Jones, and like he'd spend this one film getting with this chick, and then like the next film he's just with the next chick. Like, I always was like, man, so like I broke it for me. It's like, I don't know, but I guess people are like that still. But I don't know, I like to grow with characters and see the characters again, and that's probably why I'm such a fan of the Marvel cinematic universe, because some of these characters I've been seeing now since I was about 13, 14 years old, kind of thing. Where am I? So we know that although Dave Bautista is contracted for another film, he may be released from his contract early. We know that. Oh, what's Homeboy from Rivendell called? Hugo Weaving. Yeah, who played the original Red Skull and back in the first Captain America film, was still contractually obliged to come and replay that role for this summer's Infinity Stones film. Yeah, Infinity War. But he didn't want to do it. And Disney and Marvel, instead of forcing the matter, was like, alright, cool. Say nada, innit? Like, fine. So that could happen in the next Avengers film, which is due out next April. We could well see the death of Drax. When we first met Drax back in the first film, he, and all the way through, he has been obsessed with avenging his family, his wife and his daughter, who were killed by Thanos. And in the last film, we saw him throw caution to the wind, burn off the plan, let me go stab up Thanos in it. He was on it. He just wanted the scrap. And I think it would be very in keeping with his character for that ultimate motivation, now that we've come to the Thanos era, would be for him to die fighting Thanos or involved in the attempt to take down Thanos. I feel like that'd suit him. That'd be a rewarding end to his character arc. Now, I'd love it if they can find some kind of solution to this situation that'd allow him to continue to be part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But if not, I think that'd be a good way for him to go. I think also, considering some of the ideas that Thor may be becoming a new member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, it might mean that we don't miss Drax's sort of brawn quite so much, with Thor coming in to fill that place. Either way, that's my little theory. It could be the end of Drax in the next film. If you enjoy your Avengers and stuff and Marvel, do get in touch. Let me know what you think about my theory. I'm happy to hear about yours. You're listening to The Caveman Show. Okay, so music. I was really buzzing last week to see that it was finally time for us to get the new NoName album, formerly NoName Gypsy. I think, does she come from Chicago, maybe Detroit? I always kind of think of those two places as being the same thing. I think she's from Chicago. She's from Chicago. NoName. I'll give it a Google. Yeah, Chicago, Illinois. Formerly known as NoName Gypsy, now time known as NoName, was dropping the not that long, but fairly long. It must be about 2.5 years maybe since she dropped Telephone. Either way, NoName is super dope. She's a singer, rapper, great lyricist, great songwriter. And yeah, this was her second album. I think it's called 25. No, is that Adele's album? Room 25. Room 25. I like this album. First and foremost, I like this album. I think it's dope. I think it does everything that she needed this album to do, in terms of it shows a development of her style. It also doesn't. it's new enough and retains enough of the original. I love it. She really shows off her flows, especially on the earlier tunes in the album. Really high quality, high level rap skill, which I don't think we necessarily saw demonstrated on the previous output. Or that was more on a songwriting tip. She was rapping, but this kind of combines both. And the flow's nuts. I can't lie. I can see her shutting down a lot of rooms with that flow. If you haven't seen her Tiny Desk, she also puts in some sick work on that. But I think that was all of the old project as well. I think this project is a really 2016. The last thing came out, so it's 2 years. It's a great project. It's very mature. I like the sound of it. The rapping's great. The lyricism's great. The singing's great. She's got some really cool features on here. Is on Montego Bay, which is one of the standout tunes. I think other standout tunes are Don't Forget About Me and probably With You. But it's a great project. I really rate it, and I'd recommend you go listen to it. It's available now on Spotify. It's probably on whatever other streaming platform you listen to. But yeah, go check out some NoName. Do yourself a treat. Also on the music level, I'd like to give a big shout out to a sick artist, a Manchester legend in the making. That is the one named Afro Sam, who released his project Baggy Eyes earlier this year. Again, across all sorts of social musical platforms. He's dropped a new music video, which is called Wait, W8. It's all filmed in like a classic diner set up in Manchester. It's a great video. Music's absolutely on point. So go check that. Wait, that's W8, over on YouTube right now. So I want to talk about authority. I've been thinking about authority a lot, about who we trust authority, how we receive authority, and the way that authority reaches us, really, which is maybe 3 ways of saying the same thing. But so I don't ride the bus, me. I ride the Met in it. I'm a Metsman, and I recently started noticing these staff getting aboard the Mets called travel safe officers or enforcers or goblins, I don't know. But it basically is groups of, usually they travel in 2, and it's pretty much all men from what I've seen. And they basically go around, they don't check anyone's Met ticket. They're there to sort of keep an eye on people's behaviours on Mets. I clocked them when I was earlier this week. I was coming back from the airport, and there was a kid of about 11 years old. There was a few lads heading home from school. He was kind of swinging off the bar, the handrail, and this dude was like, stop that. And so the kid stopped it. And then a little bit later, a few minutes later, as kids do, like, he started up again, innit? The guy was like, if you don't stop that now, you're getting off this Met. Now, and the kid was like, oh yeah. And he's like, yeah, you are. And I think the kid was getting off at the next stop anyway, because when it comes to the next stop, not one but 2 of these dudes, these Met safety inspector guys, walk over to this kid. Bear in mind, this kid's about a little taller than a meter high. Do you know what I mean? He's an 11-year-old kid. And they walk over, bustle over to him and bustle him up to the door and out, like, and then stand there at the door like they're bouncers, to the extent that the next kid behind them can hardly get past them to get off, and then they're deking him. It's like, big man, go away, man. Go away. How can you be 6'3", grown adult, got a beard, you're wide, probably about 15 stone, and you're trying to like put it on and intimidate 11-year-olds. Go away, please, Lord, just go away. No, I don't hate nobody. I don't hate nobody. But what I don't dig is like, I don't like seeing nobody use their size as an authority. I'm like the beginning of being a tall person. Like, the tall people are way taller than me. But like, there's also plenty people smaller than me. And like, I kind of quite consciously try and not use my size to like overbear people. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's okay. And I feel like these people who don't have any ID on them, who don't have a name tag, who don't have a number badge visible at least, walking around policing how other people behave, I don't like that. That's dangerous to me. That's very worrying. I think we've seen it. I feel like this trend kind of started back about 10 years ago probably now, when they started, maybe a little bit more, when they started bringing out PCSOs, police community support officers, which was just ordinary members of the community. Well, I don't know about that, but there was members of the community who decided that they wanted to volunteer time to help in the police. And although they didn't really have very much power, so to speak, that was like a shift of the beginning of people who weren't the police having this kind of authority. I guess we've had bouncers for a long time. Now we are in an era where G4S, which is a massive security company, is owned, or at least large part owned, by Theresa May's husband. The connection between private security firms who are not in the best part of times, in my opinion, or understanding, should I say, regulated, and our public services are very strongly overlapping now. If you remember in Manchester what was going on a couple of years ago with the Ark on Oxford Road, that being like the big homeless camp underneath the Mancunian Way, which has now been turned into the lovely boutique shops and stuff, which you see there now, which is kind of mad still. They were largely evicted by private security firms, and also and that is the situation going forward for a lot of the people squatting in Manchester, is they are at the mercy of these private security firms who often aren't regulated. And whose authority are they rolling on? They are only rolling on the authority of their size, of the fact that these are generally bigger people who can basically beat you up if they don't tell you, you don't do what they tell you you're going to do. And I don't rate that. I don't like that. I don't trust that. I don't respect that. Man, this has turned into a bit of a rant. But yeah, I don't dig it. And I feel like the more that we allow ourselves to be controlled and dictated to by authority that we don't understand, the more we are held hostage, and the more that our democracy is pushed to the side and our rights are pushed to the side. We need to know, and we need to make sure that we do not educate the next generation into obliging just with whoever and whatever. Tribute. So I'd like to talk today about another person who I know who inspires me a lot. It's actually a birthday coming up this week, so I want to say happy birthday to you, and I hope you have a really good time. Man, this will be awkward if I've got more than one friend whose birthday is this week. But yeah, I want to dedicate this little next section to one of my aunties. I'm not going to throw her name out necessarily because I don't know if she'd want me to do that. But she is a member of my family who's been in my life forever, as far back as I can remember. She once stood as a Labour councillor. She is an extremely intelligent person and was part of the team at AstraZeneca who like legalized drugs, like medicinal drugs, worldwide, and was like a really, really high flying person in her career. She's also a really talented artist, and I'm gonna put up with this a picture of some of the work she's been making. She's made me a few custom pieces of like pottery and stuff like that she's been painting, and also makes Christmas cards, which are super dope. I'm gonna make sure that I share links to those in my social medias, hopefully later this month. Not this month, this year. She is also now very, very involved as a full-time carer and parent to my cousin Dom, who has Down syndrome, and she enables and her creative mind and her logistical mind plays such an enormous role in allowing him to do all manner of stuff. Dom is another very inspirational dude, but so much of what he does has been supported by my auntie, and I just wanted to take a little bit of time to give a massive tribute to her, and thank you for everything that you've taught me, and thank you for being there, and thank you for being you, because you are a legend. Legend. You are a legend. I don't really know how that tribute section is going to work in the show going forwards. I want to give a big shout out to the dude who I see once a week. I can't tell you where it is because not because the place itself is incriminating, but because I don't want it to be known where he is. But he's in the same time, same place every week in the middle of the afternoon. This dude is a Uber driver, and I see him sat there in this particular car park snoozing in the middle of the afternoon, snoozing with the window half rolled down, his mouth wide open, just sleeping in the car park. I see him there so much, and it just makes me laugh. Like, I always want to take a picture, but then I kind of feel like it's a violation, so I'll just talk about him on my podcast instead. Ratings, bro. I think that's pretty much it for this week's episode. Next week, I'm going to make sure that I've spent some time going to watch a bit of theatre stuff so that I can give you a little bit breakdown of some theatre. But thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of the Caveman Podcast. Please feel free to leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about it. But if you don't feel to leave no comment, I won't feel any kind of way about that anyway. I'm just enjoying the show and I'm watching it. You and I'm there for you too. So, big up. Take care of yourself. Have a lightful, joyful week. Take care. Make sure you check in on a friend at some point this week. Check in with yourself too. Take care. Respect yourself. Respect each other. Live, laugh, love, be. Life is good. Yo, peace out. From the bottom of the heart, I'm thinking of you. Take care of yourselves. Love, 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 and light to all of you. This is Caveman signing out. Peace.